This is the Barbados Today afternoon update for Thursday, April 13. I am Mary-Claire Williams. Thank you for joining us. Our top story, gays are not being persecuted in Barbados, so says Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite, as he rubbishes suggestions that homosexuals and lesbians were being targeted across the island. He was addressing the matter during a recent courtesy call with Canadian High Commissioner Marie Legault. Brathwaite noted that while buggery was still illegal in Barbados, this does not affect two consenting adults. He assured the Canadian official that Barbados has always been aware and very tolerant of same-sex relations within the society. However, Brathwaite pointed out that the Caribbean is still some way off on reaching a consensus on how it would treat same-sex relations. The High Commissioner, however, stressed that Canada thrives on diversity, and she is optimistic that Barbados will come to a place where it is different from the rest of the Caribbean. In other news this afternoon, Barbados has taken a major step towards ensuring gender equality in the judicial system through the development of a draft gender equality protocol for magistrates and judges. The document is the first of its kind within CARICOM. It was handed over yesterday at UN House, Marine Gardens, and was developed by the Judicial Reform and Institutional Strengthening or Jurist Project in collaboration with UN Women Multi-Country Office and the Caribbean Association of Judicial Officers, with funding from the Canadian government.
These draft gender equality protocols will now be reviewed, circulated, and ultimately finalized by or before the end of September 2017. This is the undertaking of the local implementation committee, and that has been established in Barbados and works closely with the Jurist Project.
Chief Justice Sir Marston Gibson sought to give assurances that under the protocol, both men and women will receive equal access to justice.
Gender equality should not lead us in the direction of favoring any particular gender. Gender equality means that we must be impartial and we must look at the evidence, but we must be sensitive to the idea that what we do as judges will influence either gender equality or gender inequality if we are not sensitive.
Local conservationist Peter Stevens is proposing that the St. Lawrence Gap Road be closed to vehicular traffic after 6 p.m. each day to facilitate pedestrians. He made the call last evening while delivering the feature address at the Sir Harold St. John Memorial Lecture in the Christchurch Parish Church Centre. Stevens, who is the current president of the Barbados National Trust, says not only are pedestrians restricted from moving freely, but the parked vehicles tarnish and damage the sidewalks in the gap.
The Lawrence Gap is an example of a major development trying to establish an identity. This is good. It does not seem to have taken as well as it should have, but it does show that we can think forward. I think they should actually shut the road down after 6 p.m. So it's kind of like New Orleans, just let people walk. Sometimes they do it in New Year's, and they would transform it. We don't actually need all these cars going through. And all the cars parked on those beautiful new sidewalks. I mean, I've walked that many, many times at night when I would go with my uncle and aunt for a meal at one of the restaurants there when they were visiting Barbados. And the absolute frustration when 80-year-old people are having to walk in the street avoiding cars whipping down because the sidewalk is full of cars. My father used to tell me you can't park on sidewalks because they're not built to hold cars.
Meanwhile, Health Minister John Boyce also raised concern that there is hardly any walking space for pedestrians between Maxwell and Oistins. He acknowledges that the creation of room for sidewalks in Barbados is a big challenge because of the number of vehicles on the road.
In a small island like Barbados, in an island which has an extremely high density of motor vehicles, one of the major issues we face on a daily basis is the question of traffic congestion and, as a result, access for pedestrians along our streets. And I personally know, for instance, how challenging it was to try to develop one sidewalk from Maxwell or from Dover, Top Rock area into Oyston. We can almost do it in a comfortable sidewalk now, but even then, there are areas where that sidewalk is reduced to probably less than 2 feet. And this is really not acceptable as an easy access pedestrian walkway for people to enjoy the ambience of actually walking into Oyston or walking into any town. And sidewalks is a big question mark in Barbados.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Who calling? Get your yams and potatoes. Wait, my girl, how you want to see you for long?
I can't. How you keeping? But you don't sell the nation paper no more.
But that paper ain't selling. There's much now I stop selling that. Look, one time I would have make a little dollar on the Sunday sun. But when Sunday night, I still trying to get the weather there.
Well, you know you can't call that the Sunday sun no more. You're going to call that Sunset News. Call at no time that news stale.
People complain that them ain't got nothing in it to read and the price keep going up all the time. A woman abused me so sick the other day, telling me that she does read Barbados today online for free. I can't take that abusing soul, so I switched to my potatoes and yams.
Well, let me tell you, if pork selling, you got to raise pigs. How much for the yams?
Oh, 75 cents a pound.
Well, that's cheaper than that stale news. Give me...
How much you want?
a pound.
Only a pound? Anyhow, these eating real good. Let me wrap them up for you. Come.
The Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. To regional news now. The widow of slain British tourist Roger Pratt is still desperately seeking answers from the authorities 3 years after the tragedy. Margaret Pratt says while the gruesome assault remains fresh in her memory, communication with the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions has not been forthcoming, and she's hoping the case has not gone cold.
The murder of 62-year-old Roger Pratt in January 2014 sent shockwaves through the St. Lucian society and caused serious concern about the country's reputation internationally. His body was fished out of the waters in Vieux-Fort. According to reports, 4 men stormed the Pratt's yacht and attacked the retired engineer and his wife, Margaret. Roger Pratt was bludgeoned. Margaret was hospitalized and discharged a few days after the crime. While her physical wounds have healed, it is the emotional trauma that drives her determination to see her husband's killers brought to justice. On January 24, 2014, 4 men were arrested and charged in connection with the killing. But Pratt says over 1,000 days later, justice remains elusive.
The last thing I heard was that there was to be a voir dire hearing to replace the full murder trial in March this year, 2017. But I've had no feedback from the DPP's office as to whether that voir dire happened, what the purpose of the voir dire was, and what the outcome was.
She says the slow pace of the local justice system is frustrating, and she is using her own resources and connections to ensure the case does not go cold.
I have a social media campaign that's launching, justiceforroger.com, and we're trying really hard to get some traction. I know from that the case is being pushed forward in St. Lucia by my many friends on the island.
On the international scene, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is dismissing reports of last week's chemical attack as 100% fabrication, despite numerous eyewitness accounts and independent analysis. In an interview with the AFP news agency conducted under restrictions imposed by the Syrian government at the presidential palace in Damascus, Assad claimed the reported details of what happened were not credible because their source was Al-Qaeda's former affiliate in Syria, Nusra Front.
We don't have any chemical weapons. We gave up our arsenal a few years ago. Even if we have them, we wouldn't use them, and we had never used our chemical arsenal in our history.
And that's news at this hour. Remember, you can visit our website for more. That's www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also tune into Channel 99 on Flow TV or Mix 96.9 FM for more news. I am Marie Claire Williams. Have a good afternoon.